Hi.
And do you have anything to share with us? Any issues or problems?
So far okay. So far nothing.
So far nothing. Okay. How about Terence?
I think all of us face the same issue of the 5 hindrances.
Yeah.
Every time I hear it's almost the same. same problems that everyone has.
Yeah, that's why it is kind of Dhamma.
Yeah, for me, I think for me, I would like to sometimes repeat the listening of the guided meditation. It helps me to so-called focus somewhere else rather than my own breathing all the time. That's what I do lah.
Mante, I do have a question because what we are experiencing now is a guided meditation. So when we do the meditation on our own, when do we know it's time to move to the next stage? This is something very tricky for me as well.
Yeah, it's for individual to explore. How far can your mind calm down? How far can your mind settle? So the range of stillness, there's different depth, there's a different spectrum. So it's up to individual to explore. Because in a group setting, I cannot wait for everybody to have the same calming down, or sometimes some people calm down already, cannot wait any longer, then the mind stray off again. So not easy, as in a group setting. So I just wait for a certain time, then just give the next instruction. But if you practice on your own, you follow one set instruction, then you can test. You do it for a short time, a longer time, and you see which is best for you, and then you move on to the next step. So generally, normally the first instruction in loving kindness is to calm down the mind, and the impermanence is to practice more detachment, and it will calm the mind further. Okay, no problem. Okay, it's already, yeah.
Oh, sorry. For the loving kindness, the mindfulness of the hair, the nails, deep skin, all that you can keep on repeating, right? You don't have to jump to the next one also, right?
Yeah, I have to keep repeating, yeah. You can just do one part of the body too, like this Arhan Shiva, they just hair will do. Don't even need to think of the other parts. Okay, so much, like 8:30.
Okay. CO2 and good evening, everyone. Welcome to MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the 24th of August, 2021. We are very grateful to have with us Bhante Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh. Bhante had his big ordination to the Theravada tradition of Thai Dhamma sect at Satipatthana Monastery, Johor in 2008. Bhante is currently the religious advisor to Buddhist Youth Network Singapore and has been conducting weekly MSBS Tuesday guided meditation since last year. This week we are continuing on the topic of how to overcome greed, hatred, and delusion. Bhante will be leading to the homage to the Buddha and taking of 5 precepts for Buddhists. Now let us compose our mind, put our palms together, and welcome Bhante. Over to you, Bhante.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the introduction, Terence. So now we start off the opening chant, the homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And the 3 refuges, Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. And the 5 precepts. Panatipata viramani sikkhapada samadhiyami. Adinadana viramani sikkhapada samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācara viramani sikkhapada samadhiyami. Musavada viramani sikkhapada samadhiyami. Suramiraya majapamadatthana viramani sikkhapada samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so good evening, everyone. So tonight we are continuing this series on how to overcome greed, hatred, and delusion. So last week we actually covered this Sabbasava Sutta. We talked about delusion, how delusion can be applied or how manifests in various timelines. Past, present, future, in our kinds of thinking, and the different kinds of views that's being manifested. Right. So past, present, future, and the various kinds of positions you take on the perception of self. Yeah. So the next slide will be the perceptions. Yeah, so there are different kinds of views or opinions based on how we feel. And when we have certain kinds of, we call it consciousness, certain kind of degree or certain depth of consciousness, we will have different kinds of thinking. Right? Only if, let's say, a person talk about Abhidhamma point of view, if a person has an arahant kind of consciousness, then again they have a different kinds of thinking, different stream of thoughts. For example, if let's say we are grumpy or angry, we will produce a certain train of thoughts. If we are happy, we are calm, we will produce a certain train of thoughts. Right? So if a person is, they have states of concentration, they will produce a certain train of thoughts, and if a person has wisdom, detachment, and insight, they will also produce a different train of thoughts. So it very much has to do with the level of contentment. So if a person is very contented, they will think very differently. So all these perceptions of self or even selfishness or ego stems from discontented mind. And the mind is not enough, then I want more. Yeah, so the I in the past or I in the future. So you crave for this in the past. Maybe if I have done this in the past, I would have been better off today, something like that. So you have lots of wish, lots of craving, and that kind of stuff. So in the future, also the same thing. What would I want to do in the future, right? Because of this ego and greed. That's why the sense of selfishness, it's rooted very strongly. So likewise, theologically, a person can believe in the various understanding of the self. You can say there's a self, there's no self, or by whatever means, number 1 to 6, if a person's mind is still discontented, then it defeats the purpose. It doesn't matter what you believe. Of course, it's good to believe in something, but you need to work your way to achieve the end goal. Okay, next slide. Okay, so actually this is the technique. In the early sessions, in the first lesson, I believe, we already talked about 4 noble truths. So that was more like introductory of the guidelines to tell you great hatred delusion comes from the cause, which is the second noble truth. But this time, this is an application, how to apply the 4 noble truths to actually reduce this stress. So earlier on, someone was sharing, they did breath meditation, very common. People do meditation and they have tension in the head, tension in wherever, headache and stuff like that. So because of 4 noble truths not being applied, or rather it's a 4 noble truth in action. It is because of certain expectation or craving. I want the mind to be still. I don't want the mind to run around. I want to stay focused. And you force your attention or you coerce your mind in a certain area, and it causes stress. It causes stress. Right? And because of this craving, then there you go. And that doesn't mean we don't apply our minds. In our meditation routine, we have various meditation trainings. Various kind of cognitive function kind of training. Because in daily life, we have making use of various cognitive applications. Sometimes we need to focus, zoom in, and maybe look at the words. Sometimes we need open awareness. If you want to look at the traffic, you want to cross the road, you want to drive, you need to open your area of attention to the wider area. Right? So we have various cognitive functions. So we can't be zooming in all the time. We cannot be open all the time. Right? When the mind is zoomed in, the mind also can be subjected to attachment. When the mind is wide open, also subjected to attachment. Right? Because of inappropriate attention. So when we apply appropriate attention, whatever your state of mind, whether it's zoom in or zoom out or scattered or concentrated or freestyle, we did various kinds of meditation. We need to apply appropriate attention. So when you start to feel tension, that means there is stress. You must acknowledge. So you must troubleshoot. If you meditate, some people, the more they meditate, the more stressful, the more anxiety, more tension, more pain. And after some time, they give up. Not meant for me. So much suffering for what? No improvement, no peace. Right? So because you never apply the 3rd and 4th noble truth, you only practice 1st noble truth meditation, suffering meditation. So the more you sit, more suffering. Yeah. Why? Because of this 2nd noble truth, because of expectation. You want something that's against reality. Your expectation is very unrealistic. And because of this, there's a clash of expectation versus reality. And that's why we suffer. Can be anything, doesn't have to be meditation, it can be in a daily life. Somebody wish, we have a wish, I want to be maybe a billionaire or trillionaire, something like that. So you have a kind of craving, a kind of expectation. But let's say I do not know the means. I do not know anything about playing with stocks or investing or whatever it is. I do not know much about financial management. So the more I dream, I can dream very nice to dream about being a a billionaire or trillionaire. But if I do not know the conditions, the cause and the conditions leading to the result, no action done or wrong action done, then you get very frustrated. Especially if you have a certain timeline, and by this time, I should achieve this goal. As the date approaches nearer and nearer, you cannot achieve, and you feel very, very upset. Yeah, it can be for any project, any kind of relationship, anything. So once you have an expectation, you have to see whether is it realistic or not. So if you want the mind to be still, right, there are steps involved. So the steps is the right thought. So this is got to do with the fourth noble truth. If you want the mind to calm down and to cease the stress, then you must take certain actions. If you want an apple tree to grow, you need to plant an apple seed. So there's a cause, and you need many other conditions, proper watering, proper sunlight, etc., fertilizer. And same thing, the application on calming the mind, you need the Eightfold Path. I think in meditation, the hardest would be right mindfulness. You need to be mindful of impermanence all the time. Standing, sitting, walking, lying down, looking, hearing, all your sense bases, whatever you're experiencing, using whatever stimuli. You need to be mindful of impermanence all the time. So this is not easy. You need to apply the technique. And then there's actually a right thought. So we talked about it in the first lesson. To overcome greed and hatred, which is the cause of suffering, you need the right antidote. Non-greed, non-hatred. So in our meditations routine, we normally do loving kindness first, non-hatred. It's a bit like stretching before you exercise. The Olympic Games or now Paralympic Games are coming. So you need to stretch first before you do the actual work. So the loving kindness is to overcome this aversion. Because if some people will apply impermanence straight away, and there might be issues. For example, we talked about maybe impermanence of the skin. Skin growing, aging, decaying, falling off. And if your mind is not at the right state, wrong kind of consciousness, unwholesome kind of consciousness, and you straightly want to reflect on impermanence, what will happen is the mind cannot accept. Straight away, the mind will be thinking, my skin so jalan, cracking already. Maybe I should see a skin specialist. Need to buy certain skin products to treat the skin. So you have lots of worry, cannot accept the change. I'm not saying you cannot see a doctor or you can see a doctor, but what we are doing is we are actually creating this unnecessary unease with the mind. So physically there's already a disease, but mentally we are also creating extra disease. It is not helpful. So what we are doing is actually not trying to calm down this mental tension with right attention, appropriate attention. So it requires lots of deliberate or intentional reprogramming of the mind. You need to purposely think of the right thoughts, purposely have loving kindness, and purposely, and then you need to think of impermanence. So you need to deliberate. If you do not apply this the Eightfold Path, you straight away maybe watch the part of the body. The mind can go to the extremes, and the mind is programmed. There's a default programming to go to the extremes. It's called the default mind. So it doesn't matter what kind of meditation object, doesn't matter what kind of sense object, the mind is programmed to go to the extremes, right? So like I always mentioned in my meditation routine, untrained mind, straight away you think of the hair, the skin. If it goes to the extreme of greed, they say, oh, so beautiful, I like, they develop greed. Or anything, turn old, decaying, falling off, then you have aversion. So you need this loving kindness first. So same with any kind of meditation object. So same with chanting. Person, let's say, chant the Buddha's name. If the mind is not at the right frame, doesn't have right thought or right intention, doesn't have the right emotion, then it will produce the wrong train of thoughts. So they chant, maybe get very agitated. Next I have worry, I have this assignment coming, I haven't finished. So the more they chant, the more conflicting interests. The mind want to do this chanting to fulfill their religious obligation. At the same time, they also worry about other kinds of duties and responsibilities. So the mind cannot find peace. So if a person does not know the technique, always say, reflect, bring the mind here and now, bring the mind here and now. So the more they reflect, sometimes cannot work. And because the technique, very straightforward, you need right thought, which is non-greed, non-hatred. So the most simple or general solution would be have loving kindness first. So you can, let's say, chant with loving kindness. So you have, you first need to generate this certain faith or goodwill in the object you're chanting. Can be the Buddha or the Bodhisattva or whoever you are hold in veneration. So you need this goodwill first. Need to adjust. Then once you have this, then you do your chanting, the mind comes down, then you can start to slowly reflect on various dharmas. So likewise for the breath, and breath very technical. So that's why nowadays I don't teach the breath meditation in short sessions. Require longer sessions actually, because there are 16 steps in the breath meditation. The first step, you need to be physically calm first. Physically, there's no tension. And the next 4 steps will be feelings-wise, mentally, you're emotionally happy with the breath. So that requires some goodwill. You need to be happy with the breath. You cannot have neutral emotion. You need to be have certain rapture or certain joy to the breath. So not easy. So you need to have this step first. It's more like a pull factor, for the mind to come back to the breath. An incentive. If you don't have incentive, then your mind will be fighting. In the Zen drawing, they have this an ox and a farmer. So it's a symbolic gesture. The ox is like the breath or the mind always running away, and the farmer trying to catch back this ox. So the first few, there's like 13 drawings if I'm not wrong. So the first few drawings talking about the struggle, and the bull is running away, then the meditator or the farmer is trying to use a rope or whatever equipment, trying to pull the ox. So there are many steps of struggling and fighting, and eventually, the farmer gets to sit on top of the ox, tame the ox. So the struggle, a lot of meditators face a long process in the struggle, trying to bring the mind together. So now we are offering a simple and easy technique. Just feed the ox, bring the ox the food, make the ox happy. And the ox will definitely have the incentive to come to you. As long as you have the food, then they will just come to you, bring the corn, bring the hay, the grass, then they come to you. Right? So this is loving kindness. You need this pleasant emotion. Because human beings, no matter how logical, how rational you think you may be, we are subject to emotion. That's why the cause of suffering is desire or craving. And the cause of suffering, the Buddha never mentioned ignorance. And it's not about clear thinking, no. It's about emotion first, because emotion clouds the clarity. So once you appease the mind, then it's a step-by-step kind of sequence. And once you appease the mind very happy, like to come back to the breath because you apply the right thought of loving kindness or whatever kind of reflection that makes the mind joyful or rapture when you feel the breath. Then the next step is about calming the mind. Next 4 steps, calming the mind. So you need to always keep on repeating and calming the mind. And eventually the last 4 steps is about observing impermanence. Yeah, that is to practice detachment. So there's lots of steps for the breath meditation. All right, so I've covered this appropriate attention, and we're moving to the next. Okay, so next is the next few slides will be more specific. The Four Noble Truth concept can be done at any scenario. So it's a troubleshooting protocol, SOP, standard operational kind of procedure. Once you detect stress, that's like an inner kind of alarm to let you know, okay, you are subjected to craving. So you need to do something to solve this craving of stress. So if you are more sensitive in your meditation, then the stress is more obvious. So it's very relative. If a person is not mindful, no stress, or I'm enjoying myself, no, life is great. Why do I need to practice? But if a person is more in tune to calmness and contentment, any little form of craving is a kind of suffering. Then you work, then you naturally want to work to end this craving or stress. Okay, so now we talk about restraining. Reflecting appropriately, dwelling, restrain with this eye faculty, ear, nose, tongue, body, and intellect faculty. That's the 6 senses. All right, so this is another kind of what it means is that whatever we experience, we need to practice restraint. So this term restraint is a very tough and difficult to practice kind of terminology. Yeah, at the surface value, we think restraint means don't see, don't see, don't hear. No, it's not like that. Restraining means once you have contact with the eye faculty, it means when you see something in the eye, you need to apply these Four Noble Truths. You need to apply the right thought. You need the right kind of mindfulness to curb this craving. And once you hear something, same thing. Right? You need to apply. So same with smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. So all these are our senses practice restraint. So on top of that, if you are unable to practice with open floodgates, then that is where the precepts come in. That is where the precepts come in to help you, assist you. It's just like learning to ride a bicycle. Yeah, initially maybe a beginner might start with 4 wheels bicycle. Yeah, so the precepts are something like that. It's, to protect you, maybe if a person starts to practice 8 precepts, no entertainment, no music, right? So it's to guide you first. No taking on meals after noontime, right? So it's to curb or reduce this sensual contact. And it's much easier, right? And sometimes even monastic rules, even more guidelines. So things like if we have nothing to do, we should gaze downwards. We shouldn't be like looking around all the time, opening the floodgates of the high faculty, seeing all the nice items are so nice. So it's even carved in the Buddha statues, Buddha images. You always look at the Buddha gazing downwards. How many of you see Buddha images, the Buddha looking all around? Yeah, no. As a Buddha is mindful to the fore, mindful to the front, casting the eyes downwards. So this way, with lesser vision, then the mind won't be so distracted. You can be more focused. And so again, just some tips. But as a layperson, maybe not so easy. You have no livelihood to make. Sometimes you need to interact with your customers, your boss, your colleagues. You cannot afford to gaze downwards and ignore them. Yeah, so you need to follow certain social norms. For monks, it's in our monastic rule when we go for alms round, we're supposed to gaze at our bowl and not look at the donor. Somebody put food inside the alms bowl, we shouldn't look up to them, and we shouldn't be even responding to them. I shouldn't say thank you, thank you. Can't do that. We have to keep this equality, right? Shouldn't have certain biasness. Somebody give you better food or somebody give you low quality product, you shouldn't discriminate. No discrimination. So you just look at your bowl, right? But in your work, you cannot afford to do that. Yeah. So again, and that is where you need to take some time off in your formal sitting. You practice this R&D, you practice it very well, and then you try to apply in your daily life context. All right, so I think it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to end here. And the theoretical sharing. Any questions on the floor? Everyone okay? Yeah, Sylvie.
All right. So regarding the restraint on the six senses door, so what we are trying to do is not to look at them as a layperson in our daily life. Is after we look at them, are we basically watching what kind of perception and what kind of mind activity that we have, whether like or dislike, and we try, if we have like, we try not to cling with them. If we do not like this, and we try not to hate it. And so there are times I find that just channel my other, be mindful that sometimes the thought is really quick and will go away if I say I do not like this. And then I will be mindful about, okay, this thought is really quickly, will go away quickly. And it sometimes works. So when we're talking about the restraining, is that basically what doing that kind of activity, or how can we actually use it in our daily life?
Yeah, you're quite close to the mark. So it's about the inner restraint. Inner restraint. Yeah, there were certain monks in the Buddha's time. They thought of digging out their eyes or removing the sense doors. So they were kind of like reprimanded by the Buddha. So that isn't the way to end craving. So no matter how many organs you remove, there's still the mind door. The brain is still there, it's still thinking. So you cannot end craving by removing the senses. So it's about the last line of defense is always the restraint. Inner restraint, and there is the right reflection. So to not have anger, you need to keep on applying this loving kindness. So that's why certain meditation objects, we encourage you to do it like throughout the whole day, standing, sitting, walking, lying down. You should be always mindful of your meditation theme. That is to create this inner contentment, and this inner contentment. So when you have distraction, external object distraction, any sense pleasure or sense hatred, whatever it is, then you have a comparison. At least the inner peace will be an incentive for your mind to come back. Yeah, so at least you have this level. So this is the purpose of certain tradition. They ask you to chant the whole day, or from our case, do loving kindness the whole day. So that is there's certain reason behind that. Yeah, so in the Eightfold Path, it's a very proactive kind of interventionist kind of approach. It's not about just doing nothing and relax. There's always need to be mindful of impermanence. Always need to be mindful of right effort. Yeah. Right. Any other questions?
Bante,
Yeah.
are you saying that if we do not develop our loving kindness good enough, so this is going to in our pathway to the progress of meditation, we're not going to we're not going to go well? I mean that if our loving kindness is not good enough, and we are going to face a lot of trouble in our practice. Is this what you mean?
In any meditation object, you need to develop at least a certain level of contentment, certain level of constant passive kind of contentment.
Because to be very honest, I don't do a lot of loving kindness because I have a lot of relationship issues with my friends and family, and a lot of my relatives. I have issues and conflicts with some of my relatives to the extent that I've severed ties with them. So I can say that I'm still a stone-hearted person until now. So is it because of this and this factor, this really kind of like cause my practice to go nowhere?
Yeah, this again, yeah, it will affect to a certain degree. So that is why in our routine we don't visualize. We don't visualize a certain group of people. So it's all about feeling the sensations, all dharmas, all thought formations, all the elements that arises. We just wish them well and happy. Yeah.
Yes, because I understand that, because in loving kindness is not biased. You don't say that I only extend my loving kindness to this particular being, not this particular being. Like I only have loving kindness for human-like animals such as cats, dogs, but I do not have loving kindness for snakes, centipedes, because these are crawly creatures. Loving kindness is not biased. Loving kindness is general. To all beings, seen or unseen, big or small.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So the whole idea is to generate this goodwill, to soften the mind, stretch the mind, reduce aversion, make the mind more accepting. Okay, any other questions? Okay, there's how about Terence? Any comments, questions on the Facebook? No. Bia, you have something?
Bante, I would like to know.
Yeah.
BL here.
Yeah.
Just now mentions delusion define the self or no self. Actually, this self is referring to what? May I know referring to what, Bante?
Yeah, again, there are many kinds of concepts. So some people believe there's like a true self. Some maybe the pre-Buddhist religions will call it Atman. There are Buddhist traditions. They talk about something similar. Talk about the pure mind or pure consciousness or Buddha nature, something to that extent. So then other views are ways to reach this, the true self or the pure self. So again, these are again perceptions.
Okay, thank you, Bante.
No problem. Okay, any other
I
questions?
have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I ask, the self and no self, is this referring to physically or mentally? It's something that we think out of our head. And is there a transition from self to no self to self because of all the states that we experience and because of ignorance?
Yeah, okay. So I would like to refer that again to the third foundation of mindfulness. Different states of mind, different kinds of consciousness, different states of mind. So you have on one hand, you have the greedy mind, angry mind, deluded mind, non-greedy, non-angry, non-deluded, and we have the concentrated, non-concentrated, surpassed, unsurpassed, and eventually a liberated mind. So at least to the suttas context, we have like whole spectrum of this so-called self, or whatever label you want to call it. So anyway, labels are again empty of inherent nature and depends on what kind of value or how you perceive it. And so this mind or states of mind, again, in theory, there are different kinds of spectrums or emotions or states of mind or whatever you want to call it. But eventually, one needs to experience it. And so the Four Noble Truths, again, we can understand it theoretically, but if you do not know how to apply, do not know how to actively engage and apply the right thought, then this Four Noble Truths will be just forever theory. When problems or suffering you face, craving comes, right? That is another separate issue to you. But when it comes to Dhamma class, oh yeah, it's real, it's real. But in daily life, still fall for the trap. Still you like the trap, enjoy the trap. But you come to Dhamma class, oh yeah, Four Noble Truths is real, yeah. So it becomes as though like dissociation, right? So same thing, the understanding of self or non-self, all these are just concepts. So the Buddha, when he introduced the concept of non-self, can be sometimes taken out of context. The yogis that he was training have certain attachment to this ego. They equate the craving mind or the craving consciousnness as equals to the true self. And some people will straight away say, oh, you are complete. No, you don't have to do anything. Everything is there. So no need to train really, So to them it's like that. So and there are teachers who teach this also, but at least in the Buddhist point of view, if that were the case, then no need to come for my class anymore. You're already complete, right? Don't need to train anymore. Right? So the reason why we are still seeking answers, because there's still craving, and we need to work our way to reduce that craving. So at least for the Theravada point of view, there is steps needed. You need to apply the Eightfold Path, lots of right thought, lots of right effort, and so on to lower this craving. And eventually the end product, that enlightened or liberated mind, you can call whatever you want to call it. All right? Okay, no problem.
Yes. Another one is that regarding the three factors, which is the view of self, skeptical doubt. Could you explain a little bit more about the attachment or the attachment to precepts and practice?
Yeah. Okay. So these there's different interpretation, or some call it rites and rituals or precept and practice, which stems from this personality view. if, let's say you view yourself as, let's say a Chinese, for example, yeah, you take up this personality and you associate with that personality. I am Chinese, for example, then this particular personality will have certain observance, certain rituals to perform. Chinese New Year, you need to do certain thing. The Hungry Ghost Festival need to do certain thing, or so there are certain rituals, rites, or practices, observance that associate with the personality. So if you want to call yourself a hardworking person, for example, you associate yourself with a hardworking person, then you need to keep up with that image. You need to keep up with that reputation. If you hold on to this personality view, so in front of your colleagues, in front of your boss, you need to maintain this image. Yeah. So that is precepts with practices with regard to personality view. So it's linked together.
It's like we assume ourselves to be a particular nationality, or we assume ourselves to be we assume ourselves to be the identity, the identity of who we are now. So we assume that we must have this kind of particular mindset to that the idea of identity. So we have this view of our identity, so we assume that we must have this kind of particular mindset. Is this what you mean?
Yeah, this is actually a normal function. You cannot have no identity at all. Like, for example, if you are attending my class, you are a student, correct?
Indeed.
Yeah, so that is already an identity. But if you, let's say, approach your family members, you cannot have the same role.
Yes, to my parents, I'm a daughter. To my siblings, I'm a sister, and to my uncle and aunt, I'm a niece.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so you cannot have the same role to everybody. You cannot be a daughter to your friend. You cannot be a daughter to your colleagues. Then something will be wrong. So these are natural interactions, but Sotapanna does not cling. So you have these roles and duties, you carry out them, you execute them, but there's no attachment. You overcome this attachment because a person finds something higher, a higher kind of happiness that is actually the clearing of the doubt. So they experience the happiness from experiencing the Four Noble Truths.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, so at least they have certain comparisons. They know there's certain higher happiness rather than the sensual kind of happiness. Okay, at least this is my take on this. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if there's no issues, then we have a 5-minute break. It's 9:18, so I'll see you back at 9:23 for the guided meditation. All right, see you all later. Okay, now it's 9:23. Wait for the rest to stream in. So for those who are already present, any issues or questions? Or any future topics that you want to suggest? Okay, waiting for one more NGIF. Okay, everyone's back. And we're now starting off with the meditation routine. So you make sure we find a comfortable sitting position. And make sure the back is upright, the rest of the body relaxed. And first phase of meditation, the impurities of the body. I'm going to visualize all the hairs, head to toe, we wish them well and happy. So now this is actually a mind or training, using imagination. But to have appropriate attention, we have right thought and loving kindness, all the hairs. So it's not just one thought of loving kindness, but repetition. Repetition, keep repeating this loving kindness. Every time you scan a new area, visualize a new area, new patch of hair, and you need to keep applying this appropriate attention. Because once you leave your mind autopilot, and that's it, yeah? You'll be inappropriate attention. Every time you generate loving kindness, you're actually generating positive karma. Yeah? So it's a good conditioning for the mind to be more wholesome. Once the mind is like in the right frame, in the peace, contented with loving kindness, then you can reflect on something more philosophical. Yeah? And the mind is always needing something. Like let's say the person is in poverty, they won't think of philosophical things. They're thinking how to feed themselves first, how to roof over their head, and so on. So likewise, we need the inner contentment and inner kind of wealth. Okay, and once your stuff fills all the hairs with loving kindness, and we can reflect on the impermanence of the hairs. All the hairs go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of them growing and falling, many, many birth and death cycles of the hairs. And the more you think of impermanence, and the more the mind will get detached. The whole idea is be aware of this state of mind. Which state of mind is the true self? Which one is the self? Is it the before meditation mind of greed and hatred, the mind, or the mind that is slightly calmer, or the mind that is more refreshed? And also we can reflect on the body. Right? Are these hairs truly self? And we tell the hairs not to go through birth and death. And the next part of the body, we're going to visualize the nails, fingernails and toenails. May they be well and happy. And all these nails go through this birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. Growing and falling, growing and falling. And we think of this birth and death cycles many, many times. So the whole idea is to take note the correlation between desire and ego. Then we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through birth and death? And the next part of the body, we're going to visualize the teeth, or the teeth inside the mouth. May they be well and happy. All the upper rows of teeth and all the lower rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all the teeth go through birth, aging, sickness, and death. So you think of the bone cells of the teeth keep wearing off and replenishing, wearing off and replenishing many, many times, many, many cycles. Then we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through birth and death? And the next part of the body, we're going to visualize all the skin from head to toe. May they be well and happy. We'll keep intentionally generating loving kindness for every new patch of skin, and we will leave the mind idle or autopilot. And all the skin go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. Keep growing and falling off, growing and falling off many, many times. And then we can ask ourselves, are this skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through birth and death? Okay, next up, we are now training this spatial function using the sensations of various feelings. No need to visualize anything yet. So we are going to wish all beings in front well and happy. And also no need to push, just gentle wish. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings behind well and happy. And come back to ourselves. And now we wish all beings on the left well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings on the right well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings above well and happy. And come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings below well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. So this time round, we are going to fill this entire body with loving kindness from head to toe. And just feeling all the sensations in the body well and happy. So whatever sensation you perceive arising, that is the within the purview of the four elements. So the earth element represents hard and soft sensations. Fire is warm and cold sensations. Wind, fast and slow movements. And water, moist and dry. And so whatever sensation that arises, we just wish it well and happy. And this four elements is called mindfulness of the body. And along with it, there's also feelings. And they find it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Also wish them well and happy. And it's mindfulness of feelings. And you must hold this state of mind. There is a mind with greed or non-greed, with hatred or non-hatred. So the more loving kindness you generate for every sensation, then this state of mind will be different. And the Dharma, mindfulness of the Dharma, is your mind more at peace or more suffering? And so generally we don't have to control the elements, let it arise naturally. And we treat all phenomena, all sensations as passerby. As long as you detect a new sensation arising, just wish it well and happy. New sensation arising, well and happy. Okay, and now we take note of this state of mind, which is still considered a restricted mind because the area of attention is still within the confines of the body. And next we are going to sort of expand the mind, yeah? We're going to wish all beings well and happy, above, below, and all across. No need to visualize, just feel all the sensations. So don't have to push your mind also, let it extend naturally. And wherever you can perceive, yeah, near or far, large or small area, as long as any sensation arises, we just wish it well and happy. And keep repeating for every sensation. So the more loving kindness you generate, right, this craving or this boundary of aversion should get thinner or lessen, and the mind will calm down to a state of this boundlessness or stillness. So this is using the concentration method to cultivate loving kindness. So if you remember this state of mind or this emotion, and now we're going to incorporate some insight and wisdom into the practice. So all this sensation and all the formations, they are impermanent and subject to arising and passing away. the mind is detached, and if you want to know whether you're on the right track, and then there should be some either inner peace or inner joy. So if there's any stress or tension, that means you're on the wrong track. You need to do your own troubleshooting protocol and reduce the greed and hatred. So the path that is leading to the cessation of stress or craving can be very pleasant, yeah? Some incentive. And this level of stillness or peace or joy, again, in different spectrums, different levels, and on how far you go. So the fundamentals or foundation is always mindful of this impermanence. Whatever emotion that arises, just treat them as passerby. Passing sceneries, and just keep on the middle path, keep on the right track, and don't stray off. So this middle path is always this impermanence. So we maintain this mindfulness of this boundless loving kindness and impermanence, be it standing, walking, sitting, or lying down. And with that in mind, we can gently open our eyes and conclude the meditation. So we are ending the formal meditation, but informally, it's all day affair. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Any questions or issues? Yeah, healing or something?
During the initial part of the meditation, which is the body contemplation, that is to generate loving kindness to the hair, the skin, the teeth and nails. During I was struggling at that part, but when progressing to the next stage, which is the loving kindness, my mind began to still down. I noticed one thing is that although your eyes may be closed, but the movement of your eye pupil, the movement of your eyeballs, and that really, and that is the cause of the straying mind, because when the mind when the mind strays, when some intruding thought bothers you, your you feel restless. You feel restless, and that causes the movement of your eyes. The movement of your eyes is moving sideways. And why I struggle at the body contemplation, because the mind seems to require a certain amount of effort to create the image of how the hair grows and how it turns gray and how it falls, and then to visualize how the skin when it's scraped, and how the wound heal, and when you get old, and how the skin begin to wrinkle, and so on and so forth, and then the teeth, and then the teeth when the teeth fall off, when the teeth fall off, and how the teeth they decay, how they have cavity, and that part to me is somewhat exhausting.
Okay, yeah, so for visualization, it's a different kind of concentration. Yeah, so if if you don't want to specialize in it, that's fine. But again, it's natural, because in the start of the meditation, very easy to have distraction. The mind still rather coarse or rough throughout the day, and it takes some time to settle down. So no worries.
Okay, and as I mentioned that when how my mind begin to spill down during as it enters to the stage of the loving kindness, because the loving kindness, I just do as you say, just verbalize mentally, may all beings be well and happy. Of course, you don't rush, you don't, may all beings be well and happy, may all beings be well and happy. No, just lightly, may all beings be well and happy, may all beings be well and happy. So that kind of still me down, and you advise us to not the feeling whether how the feelings, whether pleasant, neutral, or unpleasant. And I took note of the satisfactory feeling that I gain from having my mind become still. So I take note of my mind satisfaction. That is, I'm satisfied that my mind begin to still down, that the thoughts no longer, the intruding thoughts, random thoughts no longer bothering me. So I took note of that satisfaction feeling.
Yeah, you need the incentive for the mind to settle down. Yeah, so it's always good to have an anchor point. So earlier on you talked about the feelings. So something more easier would be the 4 elements.
And one last question. And going back to the analogy of the farmer, the ox, and the incentive. The incentive is, of course, the dry hay, the food for the ox. So we are the farmer, and the ox is the mind. So the incentive is the incentive referring to non-forcing, it's the incentive, the kind of like the leniency we give to our mind, that is not to be so hard on it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, don't fight with the ox. Yeah, it's like being a matador. Okay, there's a question, right? So yeah, there's the order doesn't matter. Whichever, I mean, traditionally we follow the scripture is from the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. So whichever order, externally to internally, you can do it all at once, no problem. Okay, so for Terence, maybe I'll type you the question personally.
Okay. You can reply inside the Facebook.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, any other issues from the crowd? Angie?
There is a question on FB. Terence, you didn't
I
get back?
mentioned already.
Okay, great.
Bante knows.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so if not, we can end the session if there's no other issues. Okay, Anmodana. Akasata Japumata Devanaga Mahidika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakatu Lokasasanam Etavata Amhehi Sapada Punya Sapada Sabe Deva Sabe Puta Sabe Sata Anumodatu Sabha Sampati Siddhya. Transference of merits to departed. Idam vinyatina hotu sukita hotu nyatayu. Idam vinyatina hotu sukita hotu nyatayu. Idam vinyatina hotu sukita hotu nyatayu. Inspiration. Imina kodya kamena mame bala samagamo sata samagamo hotu. Yavani Manapatiya. Sadhu. Okay, so any announcements from Terence?
No announcement, Bante.
Okay, so regarding the comment, if a person wants to become Buddhist, regardless of whatever background, if there's a sincere wish, then it's depends on their situation. If they are nearby a temple or they have a certain teacher, a monastic teacher they look up to, they can request the 3 refuges, 5 precepts from the teacher. And again, depending on the traditions, some traditions don't give out the 5 precepts first, they give the 3 refuges. So it depends on which tradition they're inclined. Which area they're in. So again, they have to look to their teacher for instructions. Okay, so hopefully that answers the question. Okay, anything from parents? So next week there's still a session.
Yeah, the Independence Day session.
Oh, Independence Day, okay. All right, so you're no holiday, Independence Day, no celebration.
We celebrate meditating, Bante.
Okay, all right, so I'll see you all next week. Okay, all right.
You Bante.
Okay, no problem, Sadhu.
Bante, sadhu,
Okay, good night.
sadhu.